Yeah, so it started as a kid for me. My uncle, he was a breeder and trainer of German Shepherds. So that's where the passion really started with dogs with me. I've always had a bond and a connection with them since I was little. I could pretty much get a dog to do whatever I want to do. So that's where it started with me. Now my wife, and she'll be able to tell you more about, because she was more a part about the breeding aspect, what her family did.
So growing up, my mom and my grandma, they bred German Shepherds, they bred Labradors. They were always usually working breeds. But what I got into, the main thing that made me want to get into working dogs was the sheriff's department back home. I'm from a town in San Diego. It's called Alpine. They would train in my dad's tow yard. So they would hide all the narcotics and stuff in all the cars. And I even got in trouble once for videotaping that from my bedroom window, because at the time I was staying with my dad. My parents had gotten divorced, but anyway. So I would love watching them work, just seeing a dog work. So yeah, ever since.
For us, her parent or her family imported the same thing as mine. And a lot of the things that we were seeing go down with the German Shepherds and the inbreeding, line breeding, things that went down. Show lines coming into working dog lines, and just the damage that it's done to the German Shepherd. Whenever we saw the Dutch Shepherds, we instantly fell in love. They got the same look as a German Shepherd instantly. I mean, I picked my first Dutch Shepherd up for $350 from a lady that said that the dog couldn't do anything. But $350 later, paper dog and everything, one of the best dogs I've ever owned. When we bought him, he had a lot of issues, a lot of aggression issues. They kept him in a kennel for 9 months next to bird dogs and beagles. So he had a lot of pent-up aggression, never got to go outside the kennel. So had some rehabilitation to do with it. And during that process of rehabilitation, me and my wife both saw how smart, much more smarter than the German Shepherds were. And that's one of the things that we kept continually talking about is, just the overall demeanor and the whole personalities of Dutch Shepherds versus the German Shepherds is night and day. I mean, night and day. They've just got so much more personality and much more eagerness to work for you. And again, it goes down to genetics and the lineages that we bought as well. So not all lineages are the same. That's one thing I can say. I've seen a few Dutch Shepherds that have come through that, yeah, they were meant to. They were bred for exactly what they were meant to do, and they should not have been placed in a family environment.
Right.
Leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
But and again with German Shepherds, Doberman Pinschers, Pit Bulls. I mean, name it. Anything that's got high drive, you've got issues. Mm-hmm. You just curb the issues in a timely manner before it gets to a problem.
And not like dangerous issues always. Like, it's more managing, knowing how to manage the breed that you're committed to for the next 10 to 16, 20 years sometimes.
Right.
Knowing that responsibility. Like, it's not easy for us to manage all these dogs, but we have to. They have to be safe around our children. We have 5 kids. We got 2 that are still home, that are young, in elementary school. So they help handle the dogs, though. That's the thing. The moms, the sires, all of them, they all have to be okay and healthy to be here. We can't. Mm-hmm. So all of our dogs have to be sane. They have to be worked. They have to stay mentally okay, physically exercised. Diet goes in. I mean, there's so many factors that go into it that we try to. We even offer a puppy class when people pick up the puppies. That way we can try to jam in as much information as we can and cover a puppy foundation so that when they leave with that dog, they have some bit of confidence. Okay, I can do this. We talk to their trainers. We make sure that they have a trainer or that they line it out. Mm-hmm. We just have our contract to ensure that happens, because if I haven't seen a dog since it was 8 weeks old, and you call me and it's 3.5 years and you're having problems and tell me you've never took it to training ever and never socialized it, but you took it to a dog park and it got into a fight with another dog. Well, yeah, there's, I do 3 years later. So I started doing this at the beginning. That way we try not to have any of those problems, none of those issues,
Yeah.
We're available on FaceTime for our clients for the life of the dog. We offer training help. We'll refer them to trainers in their area, because a lot of our clients are out of state. They can't just come to us. Or do the training ourselves. We know the genetics. We know what we're dealing with. We can say, okay, well, this one came from Outlaw. We know where that came from. Or Bree has this quirk, and they do. They have mannerisms and characteristics just like humans. Not all are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a big part about the Dutches, is their personalities. And that's another thing when it comes to breeding these dogs. And a lot of the times the standards that, AKC, FCI, all these different, registries have is not always, plausible. For instance, our big outlaw, he's 3 inches over standard, and, but his drive and his demeanor is perfect for his looking for. We're looking for that, protection home dog that's going to be safe around children. And that's another thing I want to point out is, raising German Shepherds and training them. When it comes to the Dutch Shepherd and German Shepherd factor, one thing that I could tell you, and this is with any dog, but ever more so with the Dutch Shepherd, Belgian Malinois. If you catch them at a puppy stage during the puppy development, you can put anything and everything that you want into your dog at that time.
Yeah.
It will be so much better at that 2-year mark than that you could ever do with, hiring a trainer at a year, waiting for that year mark. Because the thing of it is, with German Shepherds, they don't want to bite anything until about a year and a half. Dutch Shepherds come out the womb wanting to bite something.
Right.
So, and again, it's taking those genetics and using it to our advantage.
Right.
And maybe what we want the outcome to be, the best outcome it can be.
Right.
And if we do nothing, that's where you get, and that's where these dogs will get a bad rep. That's where they'll start putting this breed on the list too. I'm sure home insurances have, or might be. The Malinois, I think I've heard, it has been put on the list just like the German Shepherd, and it's not fair to the dogs, the owners.
And that's one thing that we're trying to keep from as breeders, is making sure that the people that are getting these dogs fully understand the capabilities of the dogs, what the dog's purpose is, and how it's going to function in their life. And not a lot of breeders take the time to do that. With us, you don't call us up and say, hey, I want a, striped dog that, is going to be safe around my kids. We don't pick for colors. We don't pick how they look. It all boils down to their personalities. It boils down to their traits that they're showing as a puppy. We do aptitude testing with our dogs. That way
we match them perfect, as best as we can. We don't, can't do perfect, but I believe it was, I want to say 1898. That's in the Netherlands and in Holland. That's where they originated from. They were sheepdogs, just like German Shepherds. They were bred to protect a flock or to herd. They were herders. They're longer haired, and I'm not sure if you've seen the pictures yet, but there's short hairs, there's long hairs, and there's wired hairs. Yep. It is cold there. And the places that they originated from, they needed the hair, where here we breed them down and do more short hairs. Not many people want the long hair, But that's what they were meant for. Then the Dutch police start using them as police dogs. They found out that they're highly focused, their energy levels, that high drive for the same things that they use for the herding can be used for finding drugs and criminals, So
That's one of the things, like with the sheepdogs, the Allen and the Shepherds, and all the different Great Pyrenees and all the other different dogs. They've got to be independent. That's one of the things. But with the Dutch Shepherds, they were very independent, active, watchful, alert, always reliable, loyal, and that's one of the traits that you look for in a working dog.
And what went into the modern Dutch Shepherd? Did they have to recreate and use different breeds to make it what it is today?
Yes. And some people may not say that. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And they were almost completely extinct. They used the Malinois. I know they've used some German Shepherd, but mainly they targeted the Malinois because it was really night and day from a trainer and breeder's standpoint. They're almost the same dogs.
Right.
One's got stripes, another doesn't.
And that's why they still breed the KMVP, which are usually, you would think usually 50%, 50-50 a Mal Dutch, but sometimes there's some German Shepherd, there's some Doberman, there's some other stuff that they've used here and there. Not that they're bad dogs in any way. They're just...
Yeah, and again, we're coming from a working standpoint. It makes sense why they bred the dogs to what they did. They're trying to get those workable capabilities out of it.
Yeah, formula.
Yeah, a lot of people get these purebred dogs misconstrued big time because, they had to come up with something to make that purebred dog, quote unquote. And, and again, if you're looking for working traits, you look for the German Shepherds, you look for the Doberman Pinschers, you look for these lines, these certain traits in them. Now the DNA has come out, and it's been out for, a while now. They're starting to get their DNA banks up, so we're really, really looking forward to seeing that. We've gotten a couple done of them already, but these new ones that we just imported in, we're going to get them done and get them all checked out and health issues and things like that.
The ones we're breeding now, these are the FCI lines. We started out with KMVP lines. The FCI is the purest form of Dutch Shepherd that exists. It's probably estimated by now probably 2,000 registered FCIs worldwide and probably 200 in the U.S. There was 7 long-haired, and I think 3 of them lived in California.
Wow. That we know.
But they're the purest form. Like when we do our DNA testing, all of ours, even our KMVP, have all tested 100% Dutch. We use Embark. So far, it's been the best. I think I've seen other people's wisdom results and stuff. It's just not the same. Plus, I can trace relatives this way. If there's matches out there in other countries, because we import ours, mm-hmm. We get Mania, so they have relatives in Holland somewhere. Every Dutch does. It's a Dutch, There is purer forms than others. Night and day sometimes. It's night and day sometimes, and that's God's honest truth. I've seen more focus in the FCIs, at least our lineages, our bloodlines, than I have in our KMVP lines. Not that they're one's better than the other. Kairos, he was KMVP. He would work. That dog would work literally 24 hours. Let him. We had him on a track one time for 8 or 9 hours. He would not stop till we stopped. We track deer. We run a deer tracking service in the fall. So he was able to air scent and blood trail. He was excellent on the track. But his calm down is not the same as these FCIs. Yeah, it's like a shut off or a calm down. Like when you build them up for a bite, and then they get to bite, and then you call them off, you out your dog. These dogs, you can out them, and they're good. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they stroke their chest and they calm right down.
No, a lot of that's genetic, but there's also environmental. And, any trainer and breeder will tell you the same thing. Environment has a lot to do with it as well. Mm-hmm. If you have a dog that's constantly amped 24 hours a day, he's going to stay like that the rest of his life. If you have a dog that you can go out and calm it down and start training and getting the understanding that, hey, I need to calm down now after I do this, then, mm-hmm. For your FCIs really just, and when she said night and day, that's what she was talking about, the FCI lines. That part's genetic, each and every single last one of them. They learn the out, they shut down. As soon as they still want to play, but they can hold their own. They can hold their own patience and, wait for that next bite or, whatever you're doing.
You see it in the pups too. The pups are different. I can get a little bit more focus out of the FCIs. at younger ages. Focus, meaning I can get them to touch or place or to sit before eating. They're just more focused. I don't know what it is really about them that makes them that way.
Well, and that's another thing that differs us from other breeders as well. You know, we take it on upon ourselves in the puppy stages is, you know, we start desensitizing them to a lot of different environmental changes, you know, grasses and rocks and, you know, different elements that they'll have to, you know, different surfaces, sounds. I mean, and I think that has a lot to do with how the dog, in the long run, you know, 3-4 years down the road, you know what I mean? I think it has a lot to play into, you know, how it develops as a, you know, grown-up dog, matures out, you know, it's already desensitized as a puppy, you're not going to have as many issues.
Oh, I was going to say, but don't leave out, I just in fact lost my KMVP female. She literally is the only Dutch that I never, ever had to keep my eye completely on around my kids. Like, even though I trust all these Dutches, I never leave them alone with them. They're still working dogs, you know. Mm-hmm. There is still great and wonderful KMVP dogs. She had to shut off. She was my best tracker, you know. So just kind of goes with lineages and bloodlines and pairings, environments.
Pairing has a lot to do with it.
Yes. The KMVP standards are going to be a little different because they're considered a mix or a Dutch X or Malinois X or whatever else might be in them, even if they're full Dutch. Then there's registries. They have to have like a BRN number. And a BRN number isn't the same as having an AKC paperwork or registry or pedigree. So they can only, you know, breed to other BRN numbers or unpapered dogs. I'm not really sure 100% on all their standards.
Uh-huh.
I think they only really care about working traits. A lot of police and military AVPs, you know.
Right.
For the FCI standards, they have an actual judge. Like, in order to breed their dogs, which I wish, you know, ours are FCI, but we can't keep them. Like, we can't have puppies register of FCI here. We can do future stock services through AKC.
Right.
But they're only, I mean, we're in America, so we don't have FCI. So their standards, they do like confirmation. They'll show the dogs. A few bars are double titled in confirmation. And that's how they assure that their genetics are okay to go on and breed. Mm-hmm. That place, they have to do some kind of sport. Their standards are much higher than what we offer here in America.
Mm.
What we look for in our standards of breeding our dogs, you know, I mean, a lot has to do with the temperament and the drives. You know, yes, we want size. There's a lot of people that are looking for that German Shepherd, you know, look, but they want the smaller size. You know, they're just more compact dogs, where, you know, the Dutch Shepherds are, you know, they're medium build dogs. And, you know, I mean, for instance, you know, what is the height on them? I think it's 21 inches or something like that to the ours will come out, you know, 22, 23. You know, weight wise, you know, you're looking about 80 to 90 pounds on your males. Females, you're looking 70 to 80 pounds.
And some are less.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And again, a lot has to do with environment and also your nutrition. You know, for us, as much as we work our dogs, they're going to have a higher protein. They're going to have a higher fat content. So, you know, a lot has to do with, you know, what you're feeding your dog, how much you're working the dog, what the dog's, you know, active level is. There's a lot that goes into that as well. You know, one thing I can say about when they're puppies, I mean, we feed them as much fat and protein as they can digest, man. I mean, everything from deer meat all the way up to rabbit, chicken. I mean, just name it. If it has a high protein, we're going to feed it to them. And we found that has a lot to do with, it's very good for their bone structures. That's with any dogs. You know, starting about puppy, you know, feed them real high protein, good protein at that. You're going to find the dog's going to be more healthier, more structurally sound than a dog that was, you know, kept on, you know, dog food for, you know, where it was pup life.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys feed 100% raw or do you feed combo?
No, we're a combo.
Yeah.
In order to feed that much raw, I mean, I'd have to have a full running factory,
And we did try thing. It just, I don't know. I'm not a rabbit breeder.
They all
die.
And that's another thing. I mean, you still have to add, other things to their diet besides raw meat. Aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
And this breed will burn through calories than I've ever seen in my life. They're the most high maintenance breed I've ever experienced in my life, meaning they're more needy diet-wise. When they go to have pups, some of the moms can be very, very harsh. They'll lay on them, they'll step on them. They're just rough. They're rough moms.
Mm-hmm.
Mothers, now we've had some great mothers that really just nurture and really care for them.
Yeah.
For instance, people ask me, like their personalities, and each dog has a different personality, just like humans. For instance, Joy, she just had a litter, and my wife's dog, she lost during complications, pregnancy, and just lost the whole litter. And we got one left out of it, and Joy took it upon herself to, she knew that, that the pup was in need, and, she started cleaning it and, doing everything that the mother does. A lot of people will say, that was just because she was just finishing up nursing, and not necessarily because the other dogs didn't want anything to do with it. I think that's a personality trait that, that she showed that, in that lineage that she has is, but her mother is an exceptionally good mother as well.
Oh, so great mom.
And those are the standards that we look for. I can honestly, man, I could care less if it was 22 inches and it overweight, by 3/4 of a pound. I don't care. If it's a good mother, if it's good around my children, if it's going to be a good working compatible dog, I'm going to breed it. I'm going to make sure that the dogs come out okay. That's one of the things that we look for is because there are certain dogs in the litter that aren't meant to go to a home. That's the facts.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, and you can do your research on it. A lot of people say, oh, these dogs want to go to working homes. And that's for a reason. It's because the lineages that they bought, they come from working lines. And it's sound advice not to get a working line that, that's going to do a lot of damage, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Without the right, proper training, and that's with any dog.
Yeah. So our moms, they live inside with us. When they have their litters, we have a wellbeing room in our house now. It's a big box. It's in its own area. That way I can keep it monitored with the air conditioner or with heat, depending on which season. Anyway, we put a lot into it because we've learned from experience through time breeding these dogs what works and what does not work. Some moms, like I said, when I said they are rough, like Adelaide, she's the sweetest dog ever. She was the one I just lost. But man, if you turned her back sometimes, she'd get so overtired that she would roll and try to lay on one. So I had to literally sit with that dog. I didn't sleep sometimes till they were 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to really keep an eye on them. Great mom, but didn't know she was doing stuff on accident. You know what I mean? Then we had phenomenal moms. So, like free, she'll put her paw out and let her daughters hold her hand while she's having puppies, and she'll let you pick them up from day one. Joy, she gets very protective. It just depends on the mom. So, like, we can't have everyone knows they can't come over for a while if we have litters because. They will, yeah. It's like a whole pack thing. They do what they can to make sure that the next pack members survive, just like wolves.
Wow.
It doesn't mean they're all mad, running around biting everyone, but everyone is.
It gets loud when someone comes over.
Yes, they're definitely on the defense. But our kids are a part of it when they have the puppies. We socialize them. We pick them up. We handle them. I have to befriend her in all these new dams because they have to trust me to help take care of the babies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even touch them. I have to make sure that my arm's not going to get bit off or my kid's arm, or face. So it's a process. Right now we're still doing that. We're still, bonding with them to ensure that everything goes good. Trying to think of what else. So after they're born and
We take weights on them daily.
Yeah, I was going to say we take weights on them. Really, we do a lot of socializing. The mom does most of the work, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for the next several weeks. Then about 5, 6, and 7 weeks, 5 weeks, we start really kind of seeing personalities. Their ears are up, their eyes are open, they're eating puppy food. Then the next week, when we get to our 6-week mark, then we start doing the aptitude testing. And we do it again on the 7th week. And in between that time, we're working on trying to get them to learn how to crate train. So that when the new owners get them, it's not a horrible, or overwhelming.
So we start the crate training, we start potty training, and they start sitting for their food before they leave our house.
We'll start pushing on their paws and between their toes and stuff so they can take them to a vet and get shots or get their nails done. Yeah. So we'll start messing with them like a vet would or doing little things here and there.
Socialization is a big part of that 6 to 7 week turnaround period. We do a lot of human and animal socialization we got Chihuahuas, we've got wolf dog, we've got we got a lot of different kind of dogs, but and that's a big part with any dog is socialization, but especially with the Dutch Shepherds, you really got to do your due diligence in getting them properly socialized with people, healthy dogs. I suggest not to go around a dog park. They're kind of taboo in my area. I don't like them. You get a lot of dogs that have bad traits, and your dogs learn them as well.
Right.
So stay away from them. Yeah. Personal experiences and just everything that training tells me not to do. But so that's a big aspect, and especially the more distractions you can put around your dog, especially Dutch Shepherd, and them still be able to focus and handle their business, what they're meant to do, better off they're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about the Dutch Shepherds is you really got to do your due diligence in that area.
So when you keep a puppy out of a litter, what is your selection process? What are you specifically looking for to fulfill your program?
So depending on if we're looking for dogs that have traits in protection work, we'll want a higher drive dog. If we're looking one for more that's used for scent work, we want that higher drive, but we want it to be more nose focused. We'll watch the trace of it always looking for food with its nose. So there's things like that. When it comes to breeding, and again, like I said, it's so vague because there's times where we've got a high drive male and we need to kind of calm it down a little bit. So we'll look for a less drivey female to pair with that male.
We always try to even it out.
Yeah, you have to do your due diligence on that, especially looking at their traits.
Yeah, and really knowing the dogs before pairing them, because sometimes it could be like a algebra gone wrong, just because a negative and a negative or a positive and positive will do the opposite. Sometimes if you add two of the same, it could be worse. It could be a lot, where that could only go to working homes, period, if you're responsible.
Right.
And then for us, what we would look for out of a puppy of our own, out of our pairings, is, me personally, I find I look for the females to always be less drivey, honestly, because I'm always matching these puppies to, even if they're going to working homes, there's a lot of police that they trust us for their family dog.
Mm-hmm.
So take it down a notch and make sure that these dogs are going to be a little bit less with the same working capabilities, but safe. So I always try to take it down a notch. So I would look for one of the puppies out of the litter that's not over the top, doesn't have too low of a drive, but has a lot of focus, wants to follow me, wants to engage, those kind of traits. And when you see them that young, for me, that's a sure thing. That's what I would pick. Even if it was from someone else's litter, that's what I'm looking for.
And those traits change also as well. There's times where, at that 2-year mark, they're not everything that we want in the next breeding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's those times that happens as well. Where we picked a dog and we didn't think it was going to be as as drivey as we wanted it. It turned out to be ever more so. I mean, it happened. Situations, environments, different things, add to it.
We have to do the same process for clients because they don't pick their dogs. We got to pick their dogs. But I tell them every time, it'll be brindle like you want it. They always ask. But we have to pick the dog. We will not give you a dog because it walked up to you. We will not give you a dog because it reminds me of your dog that died. We've heard every story. We have to pick a dog that we know is going to match your activities, what your environment is, and your needs in that dog. So if you're a police and you need a working canine, then that's what we're looking for in those drives. If you want a personal home defense dog, a protection dog, then we're going to look for those traits. If you're looking for service dogs, because we do produce them, we've been very blessed to have produced several, actually. We're looking for those traits. There's just so many different traits. There's narcotic dogs. We're looking for those traits. So we're constantly looking at dogs and traits.
And people need to do their research. I mean, it took us 4 years before we decided that we was going to go with the lineage that we did. Mm-hmm. And we looked at a lot of different lineages.
Yeah,
but
talked to a lot of people.
A lot of breeders.
Mm-hmm.
But the people in Romania that we meet, I mean, they're part of SWAT, so I mean, it's coming from working lines. They've got a son. They rear them just like we do. I mean,
like us, they have a few litters a year. They raise them around there. I mean, he's little. He's like 4 or 5 now, their son, and he can handle the dogs. They have dogs. Our dogs, Grandpa, he can jump out of a helicopter one day, and then the next day he's laying with that baby. So
and helping
that helped us choose lineages with going overseas, and of course the badge helps trusting them because it was scary to trust that much money going over. I mean, I've never imported anything except dogs.
Right.
It's a crazy process. There's several steps. Like, I didn't know you had to have a broker and that you had to get clearance, and then they have all these shots that have to be done. And then, like, we had Orc, Outlaw's brother. He was almost too big to fly in. They almost didn't let him come.
Yeah, those special.
Yeah, and they built a special crate for Outlaw. I mean, they're big Dutches. they're all there.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: they work their dogs more.
Right.
So they, we're here. Our standards end up. Let's face it, a lot of them are couch potato pets.
Yeah.
And that's this particular breed. They can't be. They have to have a job.
Can you talk about the difference in personality between the males and the females?
Your males, you get a lot of cockiness when you're Dutch Shepherds. They're really cocky.
Confident.
Yeah. Confident, more cocky.
Yes.
But every now and again, like with my dog, he's very high strung. And then you get to females where, there's some that will be, happy go lucky, but they'll still have that side of them, hey, I'm getting ready to breed right now. You can't breed, mm-hmm. Right? So there is that jealousy streak in dogs. Me and my wife kind of have an ongoing funny argument about she thinks that dogs do stuff out of spite. I think is just, I don't know. Normal behavior, but you get some dogs' personalities that really shine like Joy. With her, whenever it's time for her to get ready to go into her cycle, she will actually come up and she's like so much more affectionate. Where with her mother, she just standoffish. But until that time it's ready to breed, and then that's when it will kick in and she's just lovey-dovey. Mm-hmm. Right? And then again, a lot of people will say, well, that's just, her animal behavior, the cycle kicking in. And I think it's personality.
I guess start with the blood tracking. What does the Dutch Shepherd bring to the table for that?
Well, that and a brain behind it. With a lot of dogs, it's genetically bred into them that they just track. Mm-hmm. One of the Dutch Shepherd, and especially the dog that we just lost, Jennifer's dog. Every time we second guess that dog, she proved us wrong. Mm-hmm. So there's a thought process behind the nose. That's one thing I can say when it comes to tracking. that you will actually, I mean, you will see it literally. I mean, you will see the dog thinking.
Stop, reroute, and rethink. There's time. See, and the difference is they can air scent and they can blood trail. I've seen them go back and forth where a lot of, one of the rules of blood tracking is you keep your blue ground. And I've watched it. They don't. Dutch Shepherds just don't.
They do both.
They do on blood trailing, but if they lose that scent, even for a moment, they'll switch and they'll start air scenting. They'll figure it out. And something even our pit bull, who was a tracking machine, that dog was bred to track. He found every deer. So that's something I can say about the Dutch. They can reroute and they can switch back and almost like being ambidextrous kind of. It's amazing.
You can work these dogs, man, all day long. They want to work for you. That's all they want to do is please you, man. Here's the deal with law enforcement: that they're on a budget, okay? And their budget only says that they can do so much. So with our state, Kentucky is a poor state. They don't have a lot of, there's been a lot of budget cuts. So the majority that we're seeing is the police officers paying out of their own pocket, man. This whole thing with defund the police and everything, I don't want to get into politics on your show or anything like that, but it does need to be said. I mean,
they need these dogs.
They need these dogs.
And they need to buy
proper
sane,
dogs.
Stable dogs. I know everyone's seen the videos where the dogs won't out and they cannot get them off. Well, that shouldn't be happening. They shouldn't have to downgrade and buy dogs that they don't know where they're coming from. Because I know police here in this state that are buying them even out of the country, and they ended up with something that they didn't want. That's not what they paid for.
It's a PR nightmare for them.
Yeah, so for us, I mean, it's hard because, for us, we're always we'll always help our law enforcement and our military. But we're always discounting them. We've donated dogs to them. We've never asked. It was for God. It wasn't just for them. But we want to make sure that they had something safe, because we knew what they were looking at otherwise.
Have you seen some inconsistencies there where maybe some of the handlers are not getting the proper training because of budgets?
Yes. Big time.
Yeah.
So here's the deal, and a lot of people don't understand the difference between a handler and a trainer. A lot of the handlers, they're having to take it upon themselves to train the dogs. And of course, if, they go through, right resources and everything like that, they can produce a phenomenal dog. But you talk about countless hours that they're putting in after work. And that's another thing that these guys aren't getting credit for is how many, dude, I know how many hours it takes for me to do one dog to finish out. I know. So the guys that are sitting there working, my hats are off to them. If you guys are listening now, my hats are off to you guys, man. Just countless hours you guys are putting in just to get your dog trained up and certified. Hats off to y'all, man. But, with that said, these dogs, man, you put the time in, you put the work in, you're going to see it. I can't stress it enough. If you put the time in and the work in, you will see it. When you don't, that's when you'll see the bad things happen.
And I think that the bad things on that note, the handlers, they're being forced to be trainers, and they're not. There's a big difference between a trainer and a handler, or knowing how to handle the dog that was trained, right? Now they're having to do both, like you said, because of budget cuts and because of people suing. So many people are suing right now the police departments and saying that they shouldn't have dogs. They're trying to take the dog out. They absolutely cannot do that. They cannot do that.
So it's a vital tool.
Yes, they're a tool that is so necessary. Otherwise, what is our option? Just shooting them from now on? That they have to have the dog. The dog can handle the situation. The dog can stop the situation. A bark and hold, a simple bark and hold can do all kinds of things.
Yep. It can put some people in line, that's for sure.
So, with your dual purposes, okay, it has more than just one purpose, meaning. So, the majority of your dogs, they're going to be suspect apprehension dogs. Bad guys takes off running out of the car, they send their dog, and or, stand off, hold them hostage, they'll send in the dog will bite, right? So, the dual purpose, just the service dog aspect of it, or not the service dog, working service of the police officer, you have a dog that can do scent detection, it can find people, and it can also do suspect apprehension. So a lot of times, people like with dementia, a lot of older folks will get it out of the nursing home and they'll call the police and they'll deploy their dog and they'll do a search. And so it's an article search, okay? And so they're trying to find pieces of article wherever the guy went missing. So that's the dual purpose.
And what goes into their the selection process with them compared?
And again, you're trying to find that ultimate combination of high drive versus capability of calm down. Especially you need your dog from a standpoint of the dog going from a track to a bite. That's the reason why IPO and stuff like that it's so well known is because they put a lot into their tracking. And hats off to them because I know how much work they put into it. And when the dog comes off of a track to a bite, you know what I mean? It's honestly it happens so fast. I mean, it's instantaneously. I mean, the dog goes from straight prey to bite. Mm-hmm. I mean, in seconds. So I mean, he's sitting there praying up, looking for the object. They find the object and they bite it. So you need a good dog that has good brain on his shoulders to, be able to adjust accordingly. Mm-hmm. And also, a lot of times, they'll be going through neighborhoods trying to find a bad guy, and they'll run across people, kids playing in the yard, things like that. So, it tells me that it's got to be aware of the surroundings. It's got to be, not just fully directed on, on a bite or, a suspect, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got to take all of those into accountability and, adjust accordingly. That's kind of a loaded question. There's a lot of clients that are looking, that's a single family home. He's a business guy. He wants his, anytime that he goes out, he wants to be protected, right? Then you got the family protection dog, where you just want to protect around the house. And you got high executives that, they've got, millions of dollars worth of diamonds in a briefcase and they want it protected. So that's why I said it's a loaded question. There's so many different ways to do all these different aspects.
Out of the ashes we will rise, taking revenge on those we despise. On the rough flags and keep on fighting.